Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning is on education and a man who has dedicated many of his career years to the field of education. Dr. Howard Fuller is a distinguished professor of education and founder-director of the Institute for the Transformation of Learning at Marquette University. He served as the superintendent of Milwaukee Public Schools for 4 years and has become nationally known for his unending support for fundamental educational reform. He has a BS in science from Carroll College, a master's in social administration from Western Reserve University, and a PhD in sociological foundations of education from Marquette University. An outstanding man indeed. Dr. Howard Fuller, how are you?
Good. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you for being here. And needless to say, just from the open, you have an outstanding resume. So it's really hard to figure out where to start with you. But I think it's safe to start with where you are today. As I mentioned, you're the founder and director of the Institute for the Transformation of Learning at Marquette. So tell us more about that and what it is you do.
Well, you know, I've really been very fortunate in my career because when I resigned from being the superintendent, Marquette University gave me the opportunity to create my own institute.
Wow.
And essentially what the institute is, it's really a platform that allows me to do the work that I'm currently doing. And so we've been very fortunate to have been able to stay open for 20 years on August 15th. And so we've done things locally as it pertains to education. But today I'm doing a lot more work nationally, both as a consultant, as a speaker. I'm on a number of different boards. And I'm also working on some very specific projects, one in New Orleans and another effort to create a national Black teacher collaborative. So, I'm very fortunate to still have a passion for this work and to still be able to do it.
Yeah, and you're highly respected in all the things that you've done. The Institute has won nearly $14 million in grants from local and national foundations, and you specifically work to help low-income children in order to be able to be better served when it comes to our current education system.
Yeah, we're probably closer to about 32 million now, now that we've been in existence for 20 years. And so we've been very fortunate that there have been a number of funders, both locally and nationally, who've supported the work that I've been involved in, whether it was efforts to support parent choice, the efforts to create charter schools, the effort to train and have professional development for teachers across the spectrum. And right now, one of the things I'm most proud of is that I've been involved with the community now for 6 years to coordinate a summer reading project. And so we started it in 2010, and we just completed the 6th summer. We serve about 200 kids who have reading issues, and we're able to show that with the proper training of teachers and to work with these kids, you can actually move their reading proficiency. And we have a serious reading problem in this city. And so programs like ours and others are very, very important. So I'm very happy to be involved with that.
Absolutely. And on top of that, you've got that summer slide that we always hear about. Right. So on top of just really keeping the kids into the educational aspect of things during the summer, you're helping to take them to the next level for the upcoming school year.
Yeah, the summer regression issue is a particular issue for low-income children who don't have the opportunity to do educational type things during the summer. But Andrea, what we really have though is, in addition to trying to deal with summer regression, we have still a significant number of our kids who are way below grade level when it comes to reading. And what we really have to do is to understand that if we're going to change that, we're going to have to make sure that the teachers are equipped to be able to actually teach reading in a scientific way. And that's an ongoing process in our city and actually all around the country.
Yeah. Before you were appointed at Marquette, you served, as I mentioned, as superintendent of MPS from 1991 to 1995. And those were the early days of the voucher program. And you were an advocate along with the late Andrea Williams, who is considered the mother of school choice. And a lot of people don't know, but the two of you actually actually attended North Division High School together.
That's correct. I always told Polly she was a senior when I was a freshman.
So, it looked different
I
years
always remind her, hey, I was a freshman.
Yeah, and she has passed on, but what a trail she left with the passion that she had for this particular subject.
Yeah, Polly was just a phenomenal person. I mean, even when she was mad at you.
She let you know, though.
Yeah, she let you know. You know that for sure. But it really sort of bothers me, frankly. I was speaking earlier this week. I was in Indianapolis, and I was just making the point that I was really sorry that so few younger people who are involved in the movement today know the role that Polly played. Because Polly was courageous when she took the stand to support parent choice back in 1988, 89. And she had difficulties with the program over time, certain differences of opinion, but she never wavered like in her support for trying to make sure that low-income and working-class parents had choice. And Polly's someone that I love and respect very much.
Absolutely, and so many here in Milwaukee and around the country feel the same exact way. For those who don't fully understand the whole concept behind school choice and vouchers and charter schools, is there any way you can put it to our viewers in a nutshell?
Yeah, I mean, I can try. I mean, first of all, I use the term parent choice as opposed to school choice.
Okay.
And the reason why I use it is because what I've fought for over all these years is to make sure that low-income and working-class parents have the ability to choose the best educational environment for their children.
Okay.
And so what parent choice is about, as far as I'm concerned, is trying to make sure that we don't have an America where only those of us with money have the ability to choose the best educational option for our children. And so when I look at education in America, we have three major sectors: traditional public schools, charter schools, and private schools. What I'm fighting for is just to make sure that low-income and working-class parents will be able to look at all three of those sectors and choose the best one that will work for their children. Because if you have 3 kids, on any given day, one of those kids you will say was a mistake at the hospital. That couldn't possibly
They're
be
on their own program.
They couldn't possibly be there. So, and so the reality is that just like you don't have cookie cutter kids, we shouldn't have a single system that kids are able to access.
Good point.
So with all three of those sectors out there, all I want to do is to make sure that poor people can access whichever one works best for their kids. Because I believe that if you have money in America, you have choice. Because if schools are not working for your kids, you're either going to move to a community where they do work, you're going to put your kids in private schools, or you're going to find the most expensive tutoring that you can find.
Absolutely.
Or you're going to do all three.
Yes,
and the reality is that for low income and working class people, they don't have those options. So I understand that people disagree, and there's all kinds of philosophical and political issues. But for me, it's clear. It's just about making sure that these parents who don't have resources do have some capacity to choose the best school for their children.
And I was going to ask you about those people who argue that we should just pretty much fix the system as it is. But you made the statement that there is no cookie cutter way of doing things. So different students have different needs, and that pretty much explains it.
Yeah, you know what I found interesting over all the years is that many of the people who make those arguments use choice for their own children. So, and I'm just saying, I mean, I get it, and I've heard everything over 20 years, but the bottom line is you want to be able to do the best thing for your child.
That's right.
And you want to put them in a situation that gives them the best chance of being successful. Now, not all private schools are good schools. Not all private schools are bad schools. It is also true that you have great traditional public schools, and you have terrible traditional public schools. You have great charter schools, you have terrible charter schools. So the issue isn't the school itself, it's the mechanism that gets people to the school, and then we should fight for quality to make sure that whatever school you go to, whether it's public, private, or whatever, that it's a quality school.
Okay, I couldn't agree with that more. In 2013, there were statistics that showed that 42% of Black students attend schools that are under-resourced and performing poorly. So we talk about there not being a cookie cutter formula for teachers, students, or schools, but is there any way for schools that are performing poorly to kind of blueprint some different scenario that may work, or at least try to make it work?
Yeah, Actually, it is much easier to start a new school than it is to turn around a school that's having difficulty.
That makes sense too.
But there are people out there who've been able to turn around schools across the spectrum. You know, there have been people who've been able to go into a Milwaukee public school, say, that was having difficulty, and with the right approach, with changing the staff, with changing the curriculum, with changing the approach, they're able to do those kids the justice that they should have by having a good school. But anybody who knows anything will tell you that it's very, very difficult to turn around a school that is not being successful. And so that's why you see people who would say, I'd much rather start a new school, or if I'm going to do a turnaround, you got to give me the flexibility to bring in a new staff, to create a new curriculum. What I don't want people have the flexibility to do is to get rid of the kids. I mean, I think the objective is to go into a school that is not working and turn that school around, give the parents and the kids who are in that school the option as to whether or not they want to continue to attend that school. But they shouldn't be automatically put out of that school as a way to turn it around.
Yeah, you can't throw out the kids with the dirty bathwater, right? I did a speech on that in high school. Don't throw out the kids with the dirty bathwater.
I'd like to hear that speech.
I remember it because I practiced it that much. Well, Milwaukee ranks as, sadly, one of the poorest cities in the country. Number 2 behind Detroit when it comes to poverty in comparison to other major cities in the country. Why do you think that there is this belief that poor children don't learn as well as other kids out there?
You know, I think there's a lot of data out there that shows that children who don't have resources, they clearly have more difficulty in school. The point is, even if a kid is poor, they can learn.
Absolutely.
But we can't act like the fact that they come from homes that don't have resources, that they have mental health needs, that they're hungry, that none of these things matter. That's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
These things do matter. I mean, in Milwaukee right now, I think we have about 27,000 households where the household income is less than $10,000.
Wow.
65% of the households in the city of Milwaukee make less than $50,000. And so what we got to understand is, yes, schools play a very important role in changing the life trajectory of children, but we cannot act like if we don't deal with these other issues that impact the kids before they ever get to school, that's not going to have an impact on their ability to learn. And we can't act like schools all by themselves can change American society. That's ridiculous. And we need to quit saying that. That's not to say that it isn't crucial that when kids come to our schools that we do the best job possible to educate them, to give them the best chance in life. But they also need to have things happen in their lives that's positive before they ever get to the school.
Absolutely, and a lot of times you also hear a lot of pressure being put on teachers. And I've heard a number of educators say, you know what, it doesn't stop with me. Once the kids leave the classroom, you need parents at home to kind of reiterate what's been taught in the classroom, kind of encourage the kids to want to continue learning. You can't just shut it all off when they come home and then expect them to be eager and excited when they get back to school the next day.
Yeah, I mean, just before I came on, I tweeted, you know,
I love that you're all on social media. I am terrible at it.
Yeah, I'm sort of out there. But I just sent a tweet out that every time I go into our school, like I chair the board of Milwaukee Collegiate Academy, I'm reminded of how difficult the job is to teach. But I'm also reminded how important that job is. And we do need to take time every now and then to recognize those people who are doing phenomenal jobs in classrooms, whether they're in MPS or a charter or a private school. And we are fortunate in that we have many really, really great teachers out there, but they need the support of the community as well.
Absolutely, and I want to wrap up this segment first recognizing that it was in 1998 you had a conversation with then Senator Barack Obama about vouchers. I'm sure that was very interesting and very probably intriguing for you to look back on that conversation at this point. But needless to say, we've already gotten a look at the list of potential candidates for the 2016 presidential election. In your opinion, what are the implications of this upcoming election on the nation's education system?
Well, obviously it depends on who, who gets elected.
Well, that will make a huge difference.
And to be honest with you, because of this Trump madness. I shouldn't say mad. Whatever you call it.
It has been somewhat of a madhouse lately.
It's very difficult to even understand what people are talking about because what he's talking about. I don't
has nothing to do with politics in many ways.
Right.
I get that.
And so I assume that as this stuff rolls along, that we'll get more clarity about people's different platforms as it pertains to education.
That's important.
And what I would hope that people would do, whoever the candidates ultimately are, that they would talk about how do we make sure that we maintain the three sectors? How do we make sure that we have equity and adequacy in funding, irrespective of the sector? How do we make sure that we support kids outside of the classroom, the mental health needs that kids have, that we take a holistic approach to how we're going to function in America to try to make sure that our kids can begin to get to the point where they can compete internationally. Because right now, our kids, some of our best kids, are not in a position to compete internationally. And so we have a lot of work to do, and my hope is that whoever ends up being the president, that they will understand that. And quite frankly, keep some of the policies in place that Barack Obama has put into place. I think that he's been courageous on certain educational issues. We disagree on vouchers, where I don't think he's been very courageous, even though his own kids are able to access one of the best schools in the country. But on other educational issues, I think the president and Arne Duncan have been courageous. And my hope is that we won't have somebody come in and try to turn the clock back instead of trying to build on some of the successes that we've had.
Absolutely. And all of the wisdom that you've shared with us thus far is why you are traveling all over the country to talk to individuals, and we are just so privileged to have you here with us today. So if you would stick around, when we return to Our Issues Milwaukee, we'll continue our conversation with Dr. Howard Fuller about education and discuss his book, No Struggle, No Progress, A Warrior's Life from Black Power to Educational Reform. We'll do that right after this.